Here's the $1,000,000 question. Do you believe that this was in fact the interpreter himself betting, or do you believe Shohei himself was betting?
I hate to even do this because I've been judged a lot lately and I know what it feels like, but it's all my judgment based on the knowledge I have. I do believe that.
He's kind enough to join us on a numbers game. Matthew Bowyer, courtesy of the Progressive Guest Line. How you doing, Matt?
Hey, I'm doing all right. Thank you for having me, guys.
Really?
Thanks for coming on the day before you're being sentenced.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we should really start there. If I'm about to be sentenced tomorrow, I'm probably not on a radio show the day before, but you seem very comfortable in terms of you have cooperated fully. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yeah, well, fully maybe not, because of course when they grab my electronic devices,
people out. Yeah, he's not cooperating.
Yeah. I cooperated by pleading guilty, saving the resources for the United States government of spending money to indict me more, and clearly, the 3 charges that I am being charged with, I was guilty of all of them. So I made their case much easier by just coming in and saying yes, I'm guilty, etc. But yeah, day before my sentencing, most people in my shoes are probably going to be I'm anxious. I have high anxiety, of course. But, the statement I try to give everybody, including my children, are if you're going to commit the crime, be able to do the time. And the reality of that is when I was smiling, riding on private jets and gambling at the highest levels in the country and, living this lifestyle of Rolls Royces and Ferraris and Lamborghinis, you got to be able to face the fire. And that's what I'm doing now. So I'm not excited about the situation I'm facing, but I have to own it.
Yeah, so let me clarify again. Matt cooperated to the extent that he would not rat out friends.
He could have got away. He actually could have got away with probably no jail time if he ratted out 40 people they asked him to.
But to the extent that he cooperated, it will reduce the time. One other bookmaker got caught.
1,000,000%.
But that was because they seized your phone and they saw text messages, so that wasn't a direct thing by you. Let's get to the Ohtani part because I think this is obviously the headline grabber for folks. How did you first? Sure. What was the story about how contacts worked at the beginning that ended you up with Shohei's interpreter?
I had a good relationship with a couple Angels baseball players I was playing golf with and hanging out with, going to spring training, even gambling at casinos actually in Arizona afterwards, after the games. And in that relationship building, I was invited to a private poker game that was after the Angels-Padres, one of the regular season games. And the team was there. Of course, not everybody was there. Shohei Ohtani was not there. Mike Trout was not there. But there were some players, some base coaches, and some regular Joes like myself. And we were just kicking around, playing poker, having a good time. And Ippei happened to be there that night. And a friend of mine who was with me, who also was an agent for my website at the time, saw Ippei putting in sports bets. And of course, approached him, with the agenda of clearly getting his business, and casually, and they created a little relationship, and that's where it started. A really small account, $1,000 a game, $8,000 credit line, which proceeded to grow swiftly. Of course, here we are. 4 years later, and of course, the numbers were staggering at $40 million.
How much was his average bet, and did he bet at baseball at all?
0 baseball bets, thank God. There was never a baseball wagered on his account. Mostly, I would say 80% soccer, a little bit of football, a little bit of basketball, but truly 80% soccer wagers on completely countries I've never heard of in my life, actually, which was really the strange part of it. But the average wager size started at $1,000. That was the maximum I gave him. And then a parlay to the highest was $100,000. I think he would have bet more if I allowed him to. But $100,000 a game, Bill knows as well, you need a very large bankroll to take $100,000 a game. And although I had quite a bit of money at the time, I had to make sure, because I've learned this which I talk about in my book, Recalibrate, I've learned that bankroll management is the key. And when you're a gambler at my level, which is the ups and downs could change drastically, I didn't want to give him $300,000 a game, $500,000 a game. He could easily win, $30-40 million in a few weeks. So keeping it manageable for me really was the reason I didn't raise him higher, because he was paying.
Matt, and he was paying. And when he would pay you, what was the nature of that? Did he pay all? Was he honorable? He paid everything? And then, what was the nature of it? How did it come to you? By wire?
Yeah, it was. 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 It Well, what's weird is, but in hindsight, it's really easy to see what he was doing. I had no idea at the time because I never discussed it with him. Anonymity was something I tried to provide for my clients. And once I built a relationship, I didn't ask them where they got their money or how they made it or really too much personal information. And I tried to keep their business private. And that's why people used to gamble with me. That being said, we started with a small account, 8,000. He ended up blowing that out, increased it to 40,000. And then he requested more. I didn't want to really increase him more without payment, but I knew that he was an interpreter for Shohei Ohtani, and the relationships that I had with inside the Angels organization, I wasn't really too concerned about, him paying. So I raised him to 300,000, which he immediately maxed out the account, and then he wired it right away. And once he wired the 300,000, that was proof of concept for me. So he asked me for 500,000, which I in turn raised him to, and then he lost that pretty swiftly. Wired that as well, and then we were off and running because now I had this, basis of relationship, or he was clearly honorable. And then what happened was, as he increased his wagering and his credit lines, he kept asking me. You could see the text messages that the federal government released to the public. He kept asking me for a bump, etc. I kept bumping him because he kept paying. And although he didn't pay in full at that point because the balance got really high, $5-6 million. He said, look, I could send you like 500 grand every few weeks, which he was doing. And I didn't ask why. I was okay with that, of course. It's a lot of money. And truth be told, he was very honorable. And he was really a bad gambler. So as a bookmaker, that's a dream come true. So I kept extending him credit, knowing that even if he wins some back, at least he's back what he owes me. And I'm going to receive $500,000 every few weeks. Now, in hindsight, I realized that he was waiting for, in my opinion, this is just speculation, the Angels to wire the money to that account or however they pay. And then he would in return send 500,000 to me once that paycheck came in.
And if Shohei's making exponentially more by endorsements, he might not notice it. Here's the $1 million question for you, Matt. Do you believe that this was in fact the interpreter himself betting, or do you believe Shohei himself was betting?
I definitely believe it was the interpreter. I do not believe that Shohei Ohtani made any wagers. What I do believe that has been brushed under the rug and hidden, this is my speculation. I hate to even do this because I've been judged a lot lately and I know what it feels like, but it's all my judgment based on the knowledge I have. I do believe that Shohei Ohtani was aware of Ippei's either gambling or borrowing money or using some of his funds. To what extent and how long, that part is really up in the air. But my belief is that he did get approval or ask for permission or even had him send money initially. I don't believe Shohei probably, knew to near the extent it was, of course, and probably was not focused on that because we all know how focused he is on what he does, which is truly amazing.
And how are you so sure? You told a story about you went to a game and you saw bets coming in while looking at Shohei on the mound. Is that right?
Yeah, it's funny. I was trying to pinpoint yesterday, ironically, because I was in an interview. And they asked the same question, when was that? And I believe, because I went through my phone, I believe it was a spring training game. I was at Diablo Stadium in March of 2022, which we already had an extended relationship. And the figures got so high. And again, I don't have proof of this because I don't remember for sure. It's 4 years ago. But I believe that in March of 22, he was pitching in a spring training game for like an inning or two. As you know, they don't pitch very long in spring training. And that's when I was on my website and saw a wager come in while he was pitching. So then I kind of knew, okay, he's in the dugout or whatever, wherever Ippei was, maybe underground, whatever, was placing the wagers. That being said, that was the moment for me of I was trying to figure it out without asking because, again, it wasn't my business, even though it was my business. And, I even explained this to Crack. Sometimes there's questions in life you really don't want to know the answer. And this was kind of one of them because it was kind of an oh shit moment, like who was really doing this? But it's almost better just to not deal with it. And that's kind of where I was.
The name of the book, by the way, Matthew is here. Matthew Bowyer, kind enough to join us this morning, being sentenced for 3 charges, including illegal bookmaking. He has a book out. It's called Recalibrate. We'll show the picture here by Matthew Bowyer. You can get this at MatthewBowyer.com, but more easily just go to Amazon. But Matthew is kind enough to join us for one more segment here on A Numbers Game, courtesy of the Progressive Guest Line from his home here in Las Vegas. Matt, I just want to wrap up what we were talking about before about the Shohei part. We'll get towards your book here. just to give you some humanity here for folks who are listening, when you found out that Ippei Mizuhara, Shohei's interpreter, was in fact stealing money from Shohei, you did not feel good about that. Is that correct?
No, I mean, listen, I say it all the time. I'm greedy. I love money. I say that because I'm honest. And anyone who was living the lifestyle I was would be lying if they didn't admit to that. But I don't want people, even I was running a business where sadly them losing money was how I, made money. And I'm finally in a business now where moving forward, we're selling my book and moving on with hopefully motivational speaking, et cetera. Everybody wins, right? Somebody gets something on the other side of it. But that being said, I never wanted to be part of theft or fraud or any format of that. I mean, I had no idea he was stealing the money. I still believe that could be even in question as far as what part of that Shohei knew. But clearly, he wouldn't be in prison if there wasn't some sort of theft or fraud. So, him stealing the money, I would have definitely sat him down. It's not like we were friends, but we had a relationship. He was a customer, and he wasn't a man of many words, but he was a very kind, honest man. And I don't believe that him in prison and me helping facilitate that in some way, I can't help but feel some guilt for that. Even though I didn't, he's a grown man. He made the decision just like I have, and I have to deal with my crime. So yeah, I feel terrible that he's in prison.
If you don't end up with Mizuhara and the whole Shohei involvement here, are you probably still booking today, do you think? Do you think this would have ever escalated?
Oh, no question. Absolutely. Anyone who tells you that they wouldn't be as full of it. I was making a lot of money and I was living a great lifestyle. And yeah, there was some stuff behind the curtain that was rough to deal with as far as stress levels and of course ups and downs. But I signed up for that. So this has been a blessing for me, even though it's been rough. And I'm very much looking forward to my next chapter.
Let me break in here and say, Matt was one of the biggest casino players in the world. I have sat with Matt when he was betting $200,000 a hand in Baccarat. I've sat there with him. I've played in tournaments with him. I might have been on one jet with him. I've been on many private jets going back and forth to these places on the heels of like Matt, and nice enough to bring me along. But I'll tell you, in the end, like I said, I've been saying it a lot, and I know I'm real tough on casinos. In the end, Matt, can you give us the amount that was wired to you from Shohei's account altogether?
Yeah, total sent to me was $16.2 million. Sadly, of which I lost over $13 million to Resorts World in literally less than 18 months.
$13 million just to one casino. So he's one of the biggest gamblers that I've ever been around. And like I said, he said on the interview, he's been on about 500 of these private jets, these beautiful meals, these beautiful shows, backstage passes. It's the lifestyle, just like at the end of Goodfellas, when Henry says that, it's the lifestyle we miss. Making a call, getting things at a whim.
But you bring it to the other point, which I didn't really get the details on from Wisecracks on, which was the Resorts World part. So the feds they cut a deal with you, but only to an extent. You weren't going to rat out your friends, you weren't going to rat out other bookmakers, but you were willing to go after casino executives at Resorts World. Can you explain why that was and what you feel their crime in this was?
Let me reverberate your wording there because I want to make it clear. I wasn't really out to go after casino executives. All I was doing was actually explaining to the United States government the truth, which was all these casino executives knew I was a bookmaker, and they were all acting as if they didn't. And I get why, because they're trying to minimize their problem. But the reality is I've been going to Las Vegas since I was 21. I'm 50. And no person could walk in and lose that kind of money with a income of what I was showing and not know that I was a bookmaker. And I was very public about what I was doing. I didn't walk around with a sign that says I'm a bookmaker, but I didn't lie about it. I told everybody that I was running a bookmaking operation. I actually recruited customers through agents, through hosts who were casino hosts in Las Vegas, all throughout all of Las Vegas. And they would recruit customers. There was pit bosses that knew what I was doing. Some of them were betting with me. I didn't have Scott Sabella or some of these other guys directly betting with me or anything like that, so I want to make that clear. But Resorts World paid a $10.5 million fine to the Nevada Gaming Control Board. I'm losing well, I owe the IRS over $9 million in taxes. I paid 1.7 in restitution, and I'm a father of 5, and I'm going to prison. But yet they paid 10.5 million.
Yeah.
Damian LaForbes and I lost over $20 million to the casino. So let's do the math. I mean, let's just say, I think it was 24 million, 25, but let's just say it's 24 for argument's sake. So they netted $13.5 million in profit, and that's they got a fine, and that's their punishment. But they're allowing drug dealers, bookmakers, and people doing tons of illegal activity to come in there, launder money, gamble, whatever, and looking the other way. And the reason they're doing that is clearly because they're making money, and I get it. They're running a business. I was a bookmaker. I was no different. I had players that were betting with me that were probably doing all kinds of shady things. I don't deny that. But I'm paying the crime for my time. So I just, don't feel that's really fair. That being said, I'm not a victim. I chose to do what I did, which is why I write the book, Recalibrate, in my words of my version of my life. And I don't blame anyone else for anything. And I'm proud of who I am today. And that's all I could do is just be myself.
And Matt, you believe that this case, because feds don't like it when casinos don't do their know your client stuff.
This changed everything.
This changed everything,
This case
you believe.
Changed everything. Matt changed everything for the KYC law, know your customer. What that means is someone coming in with a large sum of money or even credit lines, they want to know where that money originated. How did you get that money? So I think Matt Bowyer's case changed it for the entire industry. Matt, you agree?
Oh, gosh, no question. I mean, look at the numbers. The minute Damian and I left Resorts World, they were down 12.5% the next quarter. Think about that for a second. Two customers alone, 12.5% of their numbers. Vegas Policy even does a bunch of write-ups about it, and he's pretty good with his content, to be honest. But the truth be told, now that this case has occurred, every casino has, tightened their ship. They've gotten rid of all the bookmakers. I heard MGM Grand, there's an article that says that 300 bookmakers were immediately kicked out from gambling there.
Wow.
There's a ton more, of course. I'm sure much smaller level. But at the end of the day, it's those people are not going to be welcome in a casino because they don't want the fines. They don't want the government on top of them.
Gil, you'll find this surprising. All these years of knowing Matt, even, now, like I say, knowing, I was never at his house till last week, but knowing him on trips and high roller trips, I never knew. I knew he was a big gambler, and I knew what he did, but I never knew he had this big client, which he did. He kept it quiet. No one knew that it was his actual client. But when I was with him a couple times, I remember the first time I was thinking about asking him for an account. I was like, wow, this guy bets this kind of money on hands. I'm sure if I beat him for 20, 30,000, he's not going to mind. But then when I finally talked to him about it, he of course said, I may get you some guys, but I'm not booking you.
Well, before you go, Matt, because we only have a couple minutes. So this was not the first time that the feds got to you and about illegal bookmaking. The first time that it happened, you doubled down and just had a bigger bookmaking operation. This time, now we're going to have a sentencing tomorrow, as we talked about. You are not going to be booking again. You can tell us that that's the case, and instead you have written this book, Recalibrate, and tell us about that. First of all, is that true, that you are done bookmaking?
Oh, yeah, there's no question. I'm not going to lie. I do miss the rush, the dopamine rush of gambling and taking bets, making bets, etc. But I'll work around that by getting a dopamine rush by doing things like this with you guys and hopefully being on stages, telling my story, recalibrating and teaching people to learn from my mistakes. But the book I wrote is really in-depth from childhood till present day, including to this moment. And I plan on writing book 2 for after sentencing and what I do, showing the world and showing my children that, you get knocked down, you get back up, and you can be a bigger, better, stronger version of yourself. It's really all in our mind. I think, David Goggins, shows that better than anyone. Guy can do almost anything, and it's all his mindset. But my book, Recalibrate, which I launched 10 days ago, I woke up this morning and I made the Amazon bestseller list, which was, quite an achievement considering I've never wrote a book in my life and haven't pushed it, didn't pay any money for advertising. Amazon offers you that. I chose not to. And I just kind of got lucky with using my social media and a bunch of people like Crack helping me and you guys, just get the word out. And then people were liking the book and referring it to others. So it's been really therapeutic for me to tell my story, even though there's a lot of dark parts that don't make me look great. So I'm pretty happy with the results, and I'm excited about my future.
Matt, I so appreciate it. And maybe a documentary in the future as well, we think, right? Yes?
They're here at my home today setting up to film me right now.
There it is. Beautiful.
Thank you, Matt.
Good luck tomorrow, and good luck beyond. Recalibrate is the name of the book, available on Amazon. Thank you so much, Matt.
Hey, thank you guys. Great platform. Really appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for watching, but don't let the betting insights end here. If you want an extra edge this football season, you can get a month of VSiN Pro right now, absolutely free. That means access to our betting insights, analysis, and tools like our betting splits at zero cost to you. Click the link in the description to sign up.